Committee. AB 2034, Mr. Barry Hill, the contractor says 2036 has been pulled from the agenda. AB 2529, Fuentes, state agencies, has also been pulled from the agenda. And AB 2104, Hayashi, has been put back on the consent calendar. Also announced that Senator Corbett is now a member of the Business and Professionals Committee. We have authors? Okay.
Mr. Fortani's here.
Mr. Fortani, go ahead. And we'll start at the 7. We'll hear you. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Yeah. That was a long morning.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be able to present AB 549 to you and for your consideration. The City of Hope has come to the legislature to ask for some help to do the very special work that they do. Just very quickly, a friend of mine from Hawaii was very, very sick about 5 years ago, and for over a year gone to all the different hospitals in all of the different islands of Hawaii, and they couldn't figure it out. And they recommended that he come to Southern California, first to Cedars-Sinai and then to the City of Hope, where they helped him. That kind of specialized work that they do, the kind of effort that they put forward relative to those of us not only in California but the United States is unparalleled. AB 549 addresses for them a shortage of high-level PhD lab personnel in our California labs in general. California's cumbersome licensing process has prevented highly qualified people from working in California clinical labs. Our own PhD candidates trained in California universities leave the state to work in other labs, creating a shortage of personnel at home. As a result of shortage of qualified lab personnel, clinical labs have to outsource to labs in neighboring states, which is adding additional costs, delaying lab results, and allowing outside California regulation to have an impact. AB 549 will significantly improve the process we have in place now and create and maintain jobs and prevent high top-level scientists who are trained in our universities from leaving the state. I have with me Diego de la Garza from the City of Hope to talk about this issue of high-level PhD lab personnel that we need to do the kind of diagnostic work that the City of Hope does in very, very specialized fields.
Before your witness starts, are you taking the author's technical amendment on page 5, comment 5?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And also, there's a policy issue raised that in light of the findings and recommendations of the BSA audit, will your bill slow down the DPH's efforts to improve oversight? So maybe we should discuss that as you go on the bill. Okay. Witnesses in support.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. It's a pleasure to be here.
Your name, please.
My name is Sebastian Saldivar. I'm Director of Molecular Diagnostics at City of Hope National Medical Center. I come here today in support of this bill, which I think will address licensure issues that I've come across in my career so far. Molecular genetics is a laboratory diagnostic field. It tests single genes for small genetic changes, which are causative for a number of conditions, including breast cancer, lung cancer, hemophilia. Identifying these mutations in these patients' genes not only gives us an answer as to why they're having the illness they're experiencing, but it gives us a powerful tool with which we can then test at-risk members within the family for the same condition. Additionally, it also gives us, in some cases, additional information on how to best treat these individuals on an individualized basis. In July of 2003, I completed my fellowship training at Harvard's program for molecular genetics and was ready to begin my career here at down at City of Hope. My laboratory licensure process began in July of 2003 and wasn't completed until January of 2006, almost 3 years. Fortunately for me, my California physician and surgeon's license allowed me to continue to practice as an associate director within the lab However, a large number of the candidates in these laboratory specialties are PhDs, and in these circumstances, they would be unable to practice in any clinical activities until receiving licensure from Laboratory Field Services. A case in point is the associate director for the lab at City of Hope, who was recruited, a PhD, trained at the exact same program that I came from. However, because of his situation, we had to settle for a laboratory technologist level licensure immediately, which allowed him to participate somewhat in clinical activities, but severely restricted his ability to function as the associate director. He subsequently obtained licensure, but it did take about 2.5 years to do so. I think this bill will address or eliminate this particular scenario for us. In short, the field of molecular diagnostics is rapidly growing. It represents the frontier of medicine and the frontier of personalized medicine specifically. It's very important for the state of California to recruit top candidates to fill these positions, to carry on the leadership in these labs and provide leadership to the technologists and lab support staff it has. Unless we pass this bill, California will continue to be at a disadvantage in that top candidates will be finding employment out of state.
Thank you.
And I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Diego De La Garza with City of Hope, which has 3 genetic labs on its campus to help physicians diagnose and treat cancer and other diseases. We need these PhD-level geneticists working in our labs so that we can provide the best care possible. This is primarily a jobs bill, and it addresses the burdensome process. First and foremost, what it does is it changes the timelines that Lab Field Services has to process its licenses. Currently, the Lab Field Services has an 11-month window to process a license, which is far and away much further than any other state. Many other states don't even provide licenses to people working in these fields. So what we do in this bill is change that process from 11 months to 4 months. Another thing that happens in California that this bill addresses is that students who graduate from a program here in California, before they can start working in a lab, need 2 years of practical experience in a lab. However, they cannot get this 2 years unless they have they cannot get this 2 years in lab without a license to do so. So the bill requires Lab Field Services to put out regulations requiring a training license so that these candidates can get their 2 years experience in a California lab. Otherwise, they leave to other states, in which case it's very difficult for us to bring them back. Another thing that this bill does is creates a temporary license for candidates coming from other states who already have 2+ years experience in their field. They would be able to receive that temporary license after the application process is done. Once it's been approved, they get the temporary license. Understand that there's a concern about whether they should be working under a lab director, and we'd be willing to take an amendment to do so. And the last thing that this does is it creates a licensure category for biochemical geneticists. 49 other states allow biochemical geneticists to work in their labs, also Washington, D.C., Guam, and Puerto Rico. They're not allowed to work in California. This corrects that issue, and we ask for your aye vote.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Mendez with the University of California. I'd like to concur with my colleagues from City of Hope. We are also in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. My name is Fred Noer, and I represent Stanford Hospital and Clinics. We're also in support of the bill.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Okay. Anybody else? Anybody in opposition to the bill? Opposition?
Madam Chair and members, Catherine Reese, representing the California Association for Medical Laboratory Technology. We have opposed the bill since its introduction, but we've been trying diligently to work with the member staff, the author's staff, as well as his sponsors, and had hoped perhaps we could have reconciled our differences. We have been unable to do so, and in part, our not having updated our letter rested on the kind of information that we were seeking looking to get from the Department of Public Health Lab Field Services. Our primary concerns have centered about the kind of underfunding and dramatic work overload due to budget cuts. The kinds of phenomenon that are being described with regard to personnel at the PhD research level and licensing barriers are occurring across the board. The Bureau of State Audits did a comprehensive audit, as your analysis has pointed out. And our concern is that the provisions of this bill, rather than assisting in overcoming these issues, are going to confound, confuse, and conflict with some of the progress that the Department of Public Health and the lab field services people are making. One of the things that the City of Hope has told us that they're very frustrated, as all of us are, that there's a package of regulations that are supposed to be have supposed to have been eminent for over a year, that would have addressed some of the issues that the author is attempting to address in his own bill. We understand that that package of regulations is out of the department and is resting in the Office of Administrative Law at this juncture. The overlay of the passage of this bill, as I mentioned before, has the potential of conflicting with some of the things that are being done in that package. And what we hear as recently as Friday at the Clinical Laboratory Advisory Committee, which is a public body that advises the department, that the passage of this bill will actually set back some of the regulatory work that they're doing, because then they've got to stop and then reconcile this bill with their reg package. Another thing that is pointed out in the bill and in discussions have been the need to facilitate and integrate a better and more timely communication about the applications. And part of the Bureau of State Audits was to address some kind of a computerized program and an internet program for that kind of streamlining. And we are told that that is in place. They're working on it, and they're continuing to expand it. So that element is in progress. Additional concerns we have about the bill are the reference to a Canadian board and another national board ceding basically authority from California's regulatory oversight body to private national bodies to be in lieu of what the qualifications would be that might be required by the department. Currently, the department has authority, if need to be, to create specialized areas. So, for example, the one category that is not in current law. In code sections, there are provisions to create those categories through regulation. And I'm told that while we haven't officially seen the regs, much of the focus of the regs is to address some of the concerns and the deficiencies that are being experienced by Mr. Furutani's sponsors. Another area of concern that we have is that if a scientist comes in or a researcher comes in and wants to do this kind of laboratory work, the department also has the latitude to grant them a license based on whether their qualifications are equal to or greater than those required by California. So in addition to the 3 years in the laboratory and the 2 years under the supervision of a lab director, the department has this other alternative methodology. So our concern is an unintended consequence of this particular bill is that we are eroding some of the standards that we have, that the California legislature in its wisdom has put into place for expediency and legitimate frustration at the department's very lengthy timelines for doing their work and processing. But we're seeing in the department some actual movement and some actual attempts to reconcile these deficiencies and to try and accelerate what they're doing within the framework of budget and personnel cutbacks. So regretfully, we would ask for your aye vote at this time because we really think that it's going to compound the problem and exacerbate it rather than eliminate it.
Do you find that the department was faster before the furloughs?
No.
Okay, then don't tell me about furloughs and stuff.
No.
I don't want to hear about furloughs.
And Senator, we're very sympathetic with the author and the City of Hope's concerns. I mean, the one salutary effect of this bill perhaps has been an acceleration and an intensification of the department's efforts to kind of cut to the chase, if we will. But that having been said, now that they're doing it, we do have issues with the content of the bill itself, and we worry that it will set them back if it gets passed.
Mr. Arnold.
Michael Arnold, representing the California Clinical Laboratory Association. Concerns that are the same as the other opposition witness, Ms. Reese, has indicated. In general, we have difficulty dealing with lab field services, and there are a lot of delays. Our concern, if I can kind of summarize, is that they haven't had time to do the things that they should be doing before, and now we're putting two new requirements in law on them to issue a temporary license and to adopt emergency regulations to create a trainee license for one particular category. Our concern is that they won't do any better at meeting those new requirements than they have at meeting the past requirements, but it may take time away from what they've been working on to try and now do these new things. And so we're worried that the bill won't accomplish its intended purpose and might create problems in other ways. And we also recognize the reasons why the proponents are moving forward with this bill out of frustration with the department.
Okay. Anyone else in opposition? Questions from my members? Mr. Furutani, how would you like to respond to some of the objections?
I think what clearly has been shown by the proponents and opponents, Chairwoman, is that there is frustration. I think the particular situation we're dealing with is that we're dealing with very specific, high-level PhD lab personnel. The concerns brought forth by the opposition, I can understand relative to general concerns about lab, clinic, so forth and so on. But this time that it's taking to get people to get the license they need to do the job, which is to save people's lives at the City of Hope at the highest levels of where this analysis and diagnostic work is being done, is being hamstrung by this process. And to wait any longer, and as they admit, had this bill not come forward, there wouldn't have been any movement anyway. And so with this, I think the bill will do what it needs to be done. If there needs to be rectification relative or resolving of differences relative to the regulations they weren't going to do until we put this bill forward, and now they're trying to catch up with, then that can be done in the future. But in the meantime, not having these people be able to do the clinical work needed to save these people's lives is ridiculous for us to wait any longer. I urge and I vote.
Thank you. Questions? No questions? Do I have a motion? So moved. Oh, I can't move it. We're at a subcommittee. We don't have any members. Okay, we will take your bill up as soon as we have members.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And while I understand that witnesses come up here, take of their time, and really want a testimony, we have 20-some bills on the file. If I could have witnesses be succinct and opposition and everybody be succinct. Otherwise, we'll be here till the early hours of the evening. Okay? Our next bill is Mr. Swanson. He has two bills. Mr. Swanson has item 2, and for vote only is, and item 2 and item 5. Good afternoon, Mr. Swanson. How are you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Did you say one is for vote only?
No. I was wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
I just had heard the bill, and I remembered that I had heard it before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Appreciate it. We'll take the AB 646. Is that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. Madam Chair and member, thank you so much for hearing the bill.
Mr. Swanson,
yes.
You saw the policy issue raised on page 15, comment 7. Should the medical board be involved in making determinations?
Oh, yeah. This is the.
These are the policy concerns raised in the analysis.
Right.
Yeah, as the bill moves along, if you would consider those recommendations.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, not a problem. Of course, this bill is a pilot that would sunset in January of 2010. It would allow healthcare districts to hire a maximum of 10 physicians, allow districts to enter into contract with physicians for up to 10 years, prohibits healthcare districts from actively recruiting physicians who are employed by federally qualified health centers, and mandates a report to the legislature on the effectiveness of the pilot by June 1st of 2018. The purpose of this is clear, that we have extremely medically underserved areas. Some parents have to drive very, very long distance to receive medical care for their children. And it's also clear that now California is moving into an era where access to physicians is very important. This bill also emphasizes that the corporate practice of medicine should not be feared, because there are penalties associated with violating a doctor's ability to service patients. So with that, Madam Chair, I would ask my witnesses to self-introduce.
Madam Chair and Member, Peter Gamby on behalf of the Association of California Healthcare Districts. ACHD is a co-sponsor of this legislation. This is an issue we've been working on since 2003. AB 646 is intended to head off what is an impending healthcare crisis in California. Within the next calendar year, you're going to see an increase in the number of individuals served by Medi-Cal, jumping from 16 to about 25% of the state's population. At the same time, there's a record low number of physicians willing to treat Medi-Cal patients. It's now down to about 30 to 33%, according to the Medical Association's own numbers. There is a train wreck about to happen, and AB 646 is a reasonable approach to try and address that by putting physicians into communities that are already underserved, where there are already high concentrations of Medi-Cal patients. The opposition will argue that this bill does not create a single new doctor. I would be willing to stipulate that it also doesn't cure the common cold. It's not intended to do that. It's intended to make California, and in particular California's underserved communities, more competitive on a national basis up against the 45 other states that allow direct physician employment. And I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support?
James Norman on behalf of the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees. Just to be real brief, for our perspective, what's in this bill for AFSCME is it provides access to health care for where our members live. Many of our members live in these underrepresented areas, and they have to travel miles and hours away from their homes to receive treatment. It's just something that we can't stand by and not support. We think this measure is reasonable to make sure that our members can get access to health care in the neighborhoods and the communities that they live in. Thank you.
Cindy Hillary, representing the Regional Council of Rural Counties. We represent 31 of the 31 rural counties in California, and for the obvious access issues that have been raised by the previous speakers, that's of key importance to our membership and the people who live in those communities. Thank you.
Beth Capella on behalf of Health Access and the Service Employees International Union, also in support.
Thank you.
Douglas Chiapetta on behalf of the Union of American Physicians and Dentists affiliated with AFSCME, co-sponsor and strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer Simoes, the Medical Board of California. The Medical Board has a support and concept position on this bill. We support the concept of expanding access to care in rural and underserved areas and believe that extending the current pilot project is an effective way to accomplish this goal. However, we're concerned because there's currently two bills moving forward that would both impact the pilot program in different ways, and so it would be impossible for us to implement both. But we do support the concept of expanding the pilot program. There are also some clarifying amendments that need to be related to the usage of the term board. Some are meant to refer to the hospital board, and some are meant to refer to the medical board, and the author's office is committed to making these amendments. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, Caitlin Vega for the California Labor Federation, also here in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, John Gamper representing the California Farm Bureau Federation. We're also in support.
Thank you. Anyone else in support? Witnesses in opposition?
afternoon, Madam Chair and members. Brett Michelin with the California Medical Association, and we are opposed. Last year, this issue came before this committee, and CMA, after some negotiations, was requesting an aye vote on this issue. We do agree that there is a shortage of physicians in rural California, in many parts of California. That's something that we do agree with the author on. However, we don't believe that the way that this bill is drafted is the right way to answer that problem. This bill does not, in fact, create one new physician in California. In fact, it's going to create competition within California, similar to the way that the prison receiver did when he came in and increased wages for some physicians and some other healthcare providers. They simply moved from one underserved area to another underserved area, and that puts areas in competition for the same providers. The bill sponsors talked about Medi-Cal and the requirement that how this bill will help patients see who are Medi-Cal recipients receive care. In the current pilot program that's in effect, the bill requires 50% of patient days to be Medi-Cal patients. This bill eliminates that provision. It's not in there. This bill is not limited to rural areas also. We believe that's very important, especially in urban areas where there are competing facilities. It's not necessarily a lack of facilities in many of the areas. There can be many that are providing care, but not in the same vein. Once some facilities receive the ability to directly employ, they will be others that will be disadvantaged by having some physicians providing care as direct employees and other physicians not. We are concerned about physicians that are employed not being able to refer patients to facilities that they might believe are better. You can, in some areas, you can have a specialty hospital that specializes in just knees and hips or just cardiac care. An employed physician cannot refer patients outside or will not be allowed to refer patients to those facilities, even if they believe the care could be provided better in those other facilities. One of the concerns, I know the amendment that has been brought up, is transferring responsibility for this from the medical board to OSHPD. The concern that we have on that, and it's not between which one can do it, but it's a mandate. They shall allow the facility to hire directly employed physicians. There is no review of the information. It's simply you receive it, they check the box, and if the CEO of the district has said that they've done all of the stuff, they get the physicians. There is no review of whether or not there is a shortage of care. There's no limitations in the bill that require a shortage of care in the community for that particular type of care where the physician is going to be hired to occur. We believe that it's necessary to have, at some point, a neutral third party review the information and actually determine if it's factual. We don't believe that this bill is necessarily limited as a pilot program either. It allows the pilot to go forward to 2020. However, any contract signed in December of 2020 allows the employment until 2030. That's a 20-year span where we don't believe this is the appropriate way for patients to receive care. There's been a historical ban on the corporate practice of medicine. We believe it's accurate and necessary for patient protection, and a 20-year pilot is not the appropriate length of time. Further, the districts are not sovereign entities. They aren't required under any circumstance to see the patients that come to them. They can deny care if, other than in emergency rooms, they can transfer to, say, county hospitals, welfare patients. They can move them out of their ERs, and there's not the requirement, as the counties do and the FQHCs do, to see all patients that come before them. For these reasons, we oppose the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Senators. David Quackenbush, Central Valley Health Network. We are a network of federally qualified health centers that care for over 700,000 patients a year, 130 sites in 21 counties, all the way from Butte County all the way down to San Bernardino, Riverside counties. I would say that the train wreck is already here. healthcare reform didn't happen in California, and now with the unemployment continuing to rise and the economy continuing to drag, our health centers are already seeing more uninsured at least a 10% rate a year. Medi-Cal population continues to increase. Out of our 700,000 patients, 50% are Medi-Cal, 35% are uninsured. It's our federal mandate to see anyone who walks in the door, including those that have no ability to pay and no insurance. That's what we do. That's our mission. It's not something we do because we have to. It's something that we come into the business of providing health care through federally qualified health centers in the mission-driven, community-based way that we do. So any obstacle, any additional obstacle to hiring enough providers to see the patients that we already see and the patients that are already increasing, we oppose, and we vehemently oppose. It's not a good path. It doesn't solve the problem. As was stated earlier, it does not create one new provider, just shifts them around, doesn't increase access, and we would go as far as saying this actually decreases access. If you take a primary care provider out of an FQHC and into a hospital that doesn't do primary care on a regular basis, you're going to decrease access to health care. Hospitals do see uninsured in the emergency rooms, but the hospitals would also agree that they shouldn't be seeing them in emergency rooms. So this will not increase access. This will just harm community health centers' ability to hire and ability to find enough providers to take care of the people that we increasingly are growing in our health centers.
The recent amendments that the author took does not alleviate your concerns at all?
There's no protections for federally qualified health centers within this bill, including the other bills. We're more than open to having a conversation on hospitals taking on the same responsibilities that federally qualified health centers do. If hospitals are willing to take anyone that comes in on a regular basis, on a contracted basis, contract with federally qualified health centers for primary care as we do with them for specialty care, we're open to that conversation. But as this bill currently stands with the amendments, there's no protections for FQHCs.
Except that Mr. Swanson had this last year, and you didn't have the availability to talk to him to try to come to some consensus?
We've been in conversations for the entire year on this piece of legislation and the other two. We spent countless hours, and we were not offered protections. Now, the language in here as far as not being able to recruit, we don't think that's legally feasible. You cannot take a provider's choice of where the provider chooses to work out of that. They'll always have that flexibility. We can't do that in this country. So there are no protections that protect the FQHCs in this legislation.
Madam Chair and members, Bob Ackerman on behalf of the California Radiological Society and California Society of Pathologists, two traditional hospital-based specialties. Will not repeat the earlier comments, have concerns about this approach. It will not alleviate the problem at hand. That's a severe underfunding of a lot of health care at a lot of facilities. And we think the solution to this is much easier to approach on a contracting basis, to contract with physicians, provide them financial guarantees. That's allowed under existing law. And we think it's a better approach because it is about control at the end of the day, and we're concerned about the impact on physicians and groups.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, Tim Madden, representing the California chapter of the American College of Emergency Physician, along with the California chapter of the American College of Cardiology, as well as the California Society of Plastic Surgeons in opposition. Our opposition is largely based by the same comments made by the CMA and by the radiologists, and we just want to remind folks that there is a bill also, AB 648, that's in committee here, as well as SB 726, which just passed off the Assembly floor dealing with the same issue. Thank you.
Questions from the members? Dr. Armistead, did you have any questions? Okay. Did you wish to respond to?
Sure. First of all, if anyone knows how I try to operate as a legislator, my door has always been open to discuss these matters. And when we were here before this committee before, the chair actually directed us to have conversations, and our door has been open. And I'm not quite sure who the gentleman was speaking about. He hasn't been in my office within the last year, but our door has constantly been open to have these discussions, and I just have not seen a willingness for people to discuss this and come up with a solution to make recommendations. Although we have taken amendments where we felt that we were trying to address these questions, our bottom line has been that doing nothing is not an option. It's just not an option. so according to the presentations that were made here, they may have some very good ideas, and I remain open to receiving these ideas. And I would encourage the committee for this bill to go forward and encourage the opposition to bring these ideas forward. And if they're willing to be supportive of a bill, I'm not convinced that they want to be supportive of this bill or Mr. Ashburn's bill or any other bill that's making it through this institution. But I just think that right now the status quo, when a parent has to travel 90 miles to get medical care in this modern day of medicine, is unacceptable. And so there has to be, I believe, some solutions here that are offered by this bill and other vehicles that are moving through. And I would ask that the bill be moved forward, and that you would encourage the opposition to accept my offer to sit down and continue to discuss, and we're prepared to address any fears, because our objective is to make sure that physicians are in fact available in underserved areas, and that particularly the children have the ability to receive care.
Ms. Hicks, you had further comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to what's been happening with all three bills, because I do think it's important to know what's going on in the total context. And CMA, there was another bill that just passed off the Assembly floor today. The Assembly member was the jockey for that bill, and we were instructed by the Speaker in the Assembly to sit down and talk about that bill. So we talked, I would say, for a good 12 hours throughout a week's worth of time with the sponsors of this bill, the California Hospital Association, the California Medical Association, and the Federal Qualified Clinics were there as well. And we talked, and we did offer solutions, and we did offer some things that would remove our opposition, and we didn't, unfortunately, we didn't come to any middle ground. But I would say that this has been going on for a few years. I'm new to the table this year, but certainly myself, I've sat down with many, many hours, and all of the issues that Brett, my colleague, brought up today, we brought amendments to try and address those issues. So we have tried, and we sit today in opposition to this bill as it's written.
Okay. Any other? No questions? Well, we don't have enough members here, so we'll have to hold off until they get here. Your second bill is item 5,
yes.
1822.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair and Senators. I'm here today to present AB 1822. It's a bill designed to strengthen the California Massage Therapy Council. First, I propose to continue to work further with the California Massage Therapy Council on any other concerns that they may have regarding this bill. We have spent hours negotiating down to the bill's current form, and will continue to do so. Specific amendments that I have agreed to author would clarify that the local permits to provide massage are not required of the state certified owners or operators establishments where all persons are CAMTC certified. I will have language. I have language here, and will be working with the committee consultant, Bill Gage, to refine this language, which is based on our most recent conversations. This bill is very simple. It adds to law enforcement members to the board, and permits law enforcement to establish ordinance to give background checks to persons who operate massage establishments or who are not board certified. Senator Opeza authored SB 731 in 2008 to shift the regulation of massage therapists from local jurisdiction to current state board approach by creating the current state board. The the intent of this legislation is to strengthen that board and codify a relationship with local law enforcement so that, in fact, we can protect the industry from those that would use it to support the underground economy or human trafficking or any other activity that would abuse the professional good intent and the work of massage therapists or the industry. So with that, I would have my witnesses self-introduce.
John Lovell with the California Police Chiefs Association. We're the sponsors of this bill, where the bill is also supported by virtually the entire law enforcement community. We want to commend Mr. Swanson for his leadership, and we are still engaged in very productive discussions with the professional massage therapy community as well as with the board, and we will certainly involve this committee in those discussions as they develop. We'd also like to commend committee counsel for a very thorough analysis of both this bill and the current law.
Terry McHale with Aaron Reed & Associates, representing the California Massage Therapy Association. We've had long discussions with the police chiefs on this bill. I actually feel safe now about getting arrested by most of them in case something happens. But I also want to thank the Assemblyman and his staff. We have had long discussions, productive discussions in his office, and we've gotten away from the rhetoric and have gotten down to the idea that we can write legislation that protects the viable massage therapy profession and also goes after the bad apples. Finally, of course, I'd like to thank Bill Gage for that thorough analysis and a willingness to, we have a few little things that we need to tweak, and that language we will work out with Bill. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Senators. Amos Netanel. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the California Massage Therapy Council. The CMTC, the California Massage Therapy Council's board, maintains its original position to this bill, which is opposed. I do, though, would like to mention that we've had continuous discussions with the bill sponsor, and we also had very lengthy and constructive conversations and dialogue with the bill author. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank Assemblyman Swanson for the openness and the willingness to listen to our concerns.
What is your opposition?
This bill come practically 10 months after we started implementing a brand new law. We like the ideas of making improvements, but we feel it is just practically premature. I'm very proud working with this board. This board is made out of 14 of the best and the brightest in the industry, both from public protection and the professional background. This board has accomplished amazing things. In a very short period of time, we received close to 18,000 applications. We're getting close to approve our 10,000th person. And we've done all of that without using any taxpayers' money and without any government's help. Also, the board has done a fantastic job vetting the applicants. Matter of fact, close to 4,000 of our applicants we did not approve that actually were approved by local law enforcement simply because we have the ability to have certain tools local law enforcement cannot have. And we do work very closely with local law enforcement. Matter of fact, since the board started its work, we send a little more than 40,000 pieces of communication to local law enforcement. So the system is there. The system is working well. We like the idea of making some improvement. We just feel it's premature.
Okay. Are you for or against?
Hugh Bauer on behalf of the City of San Marcos in support.
Okay. For or against?
Confused. I'm just kidding. Catherine Austin Scott, new to the table, representing the Associated Bodywork and Massage Therapists, having worked on this bill for 5 years. I joined the conversation today, having appreciated the association has worked with the author through the other folks at the table, and I wanted to make sure today they said thank you for that for the work. They do have some concerns about the board composition, given the sort of newness of this law and the way it's working through, and how many years it took us to get to how the bill was currently in play, as well as the work we did with law enforcement at that time to make sure that we were very carefully drafting the bill to make sure we made the profession, we allowed the profession to increase its professionalism and get rid of the nefarious actors. So we will continue to work with the author's office, but want to make sure that we're cognizant of the fact that we did do so much work to get rid of the nefarious actors through the process.
My name is Bernadette Murray, and I'm speaking as an individual. I am a CAMTC certified massage therapist practicing in Woodland. I've also been a licensed massage therapist with the state of Texas for 20 years, since 1990. I had written a letter of opposition to this committee, but I want to acknowledge the excellent dialogue and work that's been done, my concerns that were raised in that letter. There is much progress moving forward, and I really want to acknowledge what Assemblymember Swanson has done and how open his staff has been to working on behalf of respecting the massage therapy profession. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Swanson,
yes.
I'm kind of ambivalent about this bill, because I am a user of a massage therapist, have been for many, many years, and I was appalled at some of the mechanizations that they had to go through in order to get licensed by many cities and police departments when they're legitimate people that are actually working, that are actually putting money into society, that have a legitimate business, that were often treated like massage, Lulu's feel-good place, So I don't know. I don't know about this bill. I don't know why we need a police officer on their board.
This, Senator, this bill does not change what was done with Senate Bill 731, which gave authority to the board to issue certificates and provided that those certificates are portable. Nor does this bill purport to provide or to encroach on anyone who has a certificate. But the fact is that the human trafficking business is a big business, and it's a sophisticated business, and they look to try and exploit areas where they can take advantage. We believe that having a member of the police chiefs and the sheriffs on the board will provide an important additional safeguard against a repetition of an unhappy history that has occurred. We know that in the past, human traffickers and prostitution interests have invaded this profession. And we believe that having this kind of input is consistent with what the board now does, where they reach out to local law enforcement for comments. And we think this actually makes the existing law more credible and will ensure that there will be a cooperative, collaborative involvement with police departments. There is no effort to go back to local ordinances. And I think this is important for the overall confidence that everyone have in this law, which on its own is due to sunset in 5 years. So we think that this is an important building block for the law without changing the fundamental policy direction that was done with SB 731.
Yeah, Senator, let me just say that much of the very positive expressions that have been made here has been because we have been very clear to massage therapists that they are not the target of any of this. Matter of fact, it is their welfare that is primarily designed to benefit from this. The years that they train in their profession. We want that to remain an honorable profession, and we don't want that profession kidnapped. We want and so from that standpoint, we've taken every step possible to ensure the massage therapists that we want to protect their industry. Second, in the meetings that we've had, there has really been no objection to the addition to the board. When we've had our meetings, and I have felt that was important because unless there's a partnership between local law enforcement and the state board, there's really no way to succeed here. They admit that they have to rely on local law enforcement, and so I think that this bill has been simplified and developed in a way that will, in fact, strengthen the state council and protect the therapists themselves. But that person that attempts to open up a business that's not state certified and use it for illicit purposes, we will be able to prevent that, and that would benefit everyone.
Sergeant, could you do the pinging out of the thing? Because he's pinging every time he talks.
I'm pinging. Okay.
You're a pinger. Senator Onestedt.
Yes.
The arguments all sound well and good, Mr. Assemblyman, but I think this sets a very dangerous precedent. The concept that we have about consumer boards regulating themselves is self-regulation. We have nurses on the nursing board, and they've done a fairly good job of regulating themselves. However, we see in the newspaper today, thousands of nurses are being given jobs and licenses in this state, and it turns out that in other states they've had discipline actions, or they've had drug problems, or they've actually harmed patients. Are we going to propose that we put law enforcement officers on the nursing board, which is a far more serious problem than we're talking about here? Same thing with the medical board. The fact of the matter is we have some citizens on the medical board, but we basically have a concept in this state that we self-govern, that the peers, the physicians, regulate themselves. And we have problems with that, especially now when we see that there are a lot of drugs out there used in pain clinics that were meant to use for narcotic abuse, and we actually have law enforcement officers going after physicians in pain clinics for the unacceptable use of drugs to get people off of their drug habit. It's acceptable in medical circumstances, but not in judicial circus is a good word. The point that I'm making here is this is a very, very serious departure from the precedent that we have that our consumer boards self-regulate. And now we're going to put law enforcement, you say, to protect the massage therapists. But let me tell you, and that the massage therapists are not the ones who are the targets here. The only thing that the Massage Therapy Board regulates are licensed massage therapists, not the bad guys. And so this bill, I think, is a dangerous first step towards our going to a new concept where we're going to now put public safety officials and law enforcement officials to sit on regulatory boards that develop the standards of care of medicine and massage therapy and nursing in the state. I don't think that's a good idea, and I have to vote no.
I would say, Senator, with all due respect, the many people who have been participating in the drug trade in our state and in the nation have moved to a multi-billion-dollar underground economy, which is human trafficking. It is a serious problem. Our men and women in law enforcement are on the front lines trying to deal with that. Many of the victims are underage. So it's important for us to try to do something about that. And so we're attempting to try to be as understanding, as considerate and concerned and protective of a legitimate industry. But we cannot allow to sit by and watch an industry that is growing, an underground economy that is growing, and allow it to overwhelm the legitimate industry of massage therapy. And so as a result of that, under current law, the state board has to have a relationship with local law enforcement. They acknowledge that here before you today, that they send a tremendous amount of paperwork to local law enforcement, and they solicit the assistance of local law enforcement. They must, to be able to establish who's legitimate and who is not legitimate. And that is what we're attempting to codify with this bill. And I think that in the long run, we will be able to protect those that have provided services for the chair and even myself on occasions. And so from that standpoint, I think this is a very reasonable approach. My office remains very open to continue to tweak as we go forward, as I mentioned in the opening statement, as no one has contradicted here. And so with that, I would ask that the bill be moved forward.
Okay, we do not have enough members here, so we will take up your bill when we have enough members.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
yes.
How many more members do we need to establish a quorum?
One more.
One more.
But we've had members coming in.
Yes,
Mr.
okay.
Correa has a committee that he's on right now, and Ms. Corbett is on another committee, so everybody's on another committee. Okay, thank you. Mr. Perez?
Here is 3 bills.
Yeah, he's got 3 bills, item 3, 15, and 16. Mr. Perez, is he here? No, that's Mr. Nava.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Mr.
I know they all look alike. What can I tell you?
Close enough.
No, he was here. He was here, and then he walked out. Yeah. He was here. That's okay. I'm often called Gloria Molina. I'm called everything else.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
Yeah, just don't call me late for dinner. Mr. Nava, you have number 11.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'm here to present on AB 2167, the Social Worker Loan Repayment Act. The social workers are on the front lines for people whose lives are in crisis. They are the ones whose patients and clients go to during emergencies and for day-to-day assistance in putting their lives back together when tragedy has overwhelmed them. Social workers give them the tools to keep on living. California is the only state in the nation that does not qualify our licensed clinical social workers for the federal loan repayment program. This program pays up to $50,000 in loan repayments, including tuition and housing costs, while obtaining the master's degree. The only thing that social workers need to qualify for this federal assistance is that the state administer the National Social Worker exam instead of the current exam. All other states in the nation take the federal exam, and their social workers are benefiting from this great loan repayment program. AB 2167 will swap the national exam plus the state jurisprudence and ethics exam for the current state exams. This bill does not alter any other requirement for licensure. This bill gives the Board of Behavioral Sciences final say on whether or not the proposed exam meets California's standards. 2167, the Social Workers Loan Repayment Act, will be the tool social workers need to improve their own lives, to stay on their feet financially, and to live a better life while they are assisting so many others. I ask you to join me in supporting this measure, and I have witnesses in support.
Thank you. Witnesses in support, please.
Rebecca Gonzalez with the National Association of Social Workers, California chapter. We want to thank Assemblymember Nava for authoring this bill for us, and we came up with this idea simply because over the years social workers have approached us about their desire to get into this national loan repayment program, and they've been very frustrated that they haven't been able to do that. And so that is why we'd like to return to the national exam and ask for your support.
Thank you. Are there witnesses?
Good afternoon. My name is Emma Curtis, and I'm a student social work major at Sac State. and I'd like to ask you to consider this bill and vote for it. It would personally benefit me as well as many of my peers. I think it would be just really great of the state of California to position us in a place where we could have this benefit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Kathy Sunderling with the County Welfare Directors Association, also in support. As you know, we have a shortage of these licensed professionals, and anything we can do to help increase the numbers would be very helpful.
Thank you. More witnesses in support. Tracy, are you in support?
Janice Norman, on behalf of the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, we'd like to thank the author. We're in strong support of the bill. We think anything you could do to increase the numbers will be of great assistance.
Thank you.
Tracy Ryan, Board of Behavioral Sciences, in support. We appreciate the author's office and the sponsors to continue to help work on the bill and address the board's concerns.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this bill? Questions from the member? Would you care to close?
Just express my appreciation to all the parties who have negotiated on this and ask for an aye vote when you have the members.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, Mr. Perez. Okay. And Mr. Perez has 3 bills, 3, 15, and 16. Would you like to start with 3?
That's 1558?
That's correct.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Sure.
This has an urgency. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And you, there's 2 technical amendments, and you're willing
Sure,
to
I
take those?
accept amendments.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for those amendments as well. Appreciate that. As you all know, California stands at a crossroads without a comprehensive plan to guide our recovery efforts. California workers and businesses are currently facing some of the harshest economic conditions since the Great Depression. Unemployment in California has reached over 12%. And in some places, like in my district, unemployment has reached over 28% already. AB 1558 updates the requirement for the development of the State Economic Development Strategy and requires that it be submitted to the legislature by July 1st, 2011. More specifically, the bill modifies the content of the strategy to reflect current economic best practices and key issues, including the role of innovation in the California economy and the need to attract more private capital to the state's border regions and other emerging domestic markets. It expands and updates the membership of the California Economic Strategy Panel. The bill also requires that at least one member of the Economic Strategy Panel be a representative of economic developers. It extends the term of the strategy from every 2 years to every 5 years, and requires that funding come from private sources. We had Mr. Wayne Shao earlier today. He had to leave. But Tony Simons is here as well, in case you may have any technical questions, and I respectfully ask for your vote.
Okay, is there any support for the bill? Is there any opposition? Are there questions from the members for this bill? Would you care to close on this bill?
I respectfully ask for your aye vote. We need a unified vision to move the state of California into recovery.
All right, and then your next bill is item 15.
Is that, I believe, 2437?
That's correct.
Okay. Madam Chair and members, AB 2437, the California Manufacturing Competitiveness Act of 2010, establishes a framework for a revolving loan and loan guarantee program for mid to large size manufacturers. The purpose of the program is to be a deal closer fund that can support the retooling and expansion of California's manufacturing facilities, leading to the retention and the creation of jobs. As you know, during this session, the Jobs, Economic Development, and the Economy Committee has been especially focused on the role manufacturing plays in the California economy and the challenges manufacturers face in staying competitive in this economy. You may have a handout there, and I'd like for you to turn everyone's attention to the 3 charts in the analysis. They appear on pages 3, 4, and 8, and I have also prepared handouts for the committee members, which I believe you have now. In the first chart, we can see that manufacturing is a very important component of the California economy. If you look at it there, it says in 2008, manufacturing is at 9.3%. obviously critical when you look at the rest of industries that are there. But I can tell you that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that piece of the pie, if you will, was much larger. The second chart illustrates the dramatic shift in jobs and wages over the past decade. As you can tell there, we've lost, since 2001 of January to December of 2008, we've lost 473,500 manufacturing jobs. And the third chart shows that California is losing out and attracting new or gaining expanded manufacturing facilities. And as you can tell there in that chart, unfortunately, we are dead last. So clearly, California has a challenge. At the national level, the President and Congress are also looking at how to better support manufacturing. In December, the President released a new national manufacturing competitiveness strategy, and in February, a $130 million RFP for an energy innovation hub was announced. We expect to see innovation hubs in other technology areas as well. Congress is also taking action on manufacturing, including the potential authorization of a $30 million for states to establish their own revolving loan funds. The program authorized in this bill will help California capture that money. I respectfully ask for your aye vote. There is no known opposition to this bill, and we have a couple of representatives here, I believe, and we have California Labor Federation as my sponsor, and as well the California Manufacturing Technology Association.
Okay, witnesses in support.
Hello, thank you, Chair and Committee, and to the Assembly Member. My name is Sarah Flux, and I am here from the California Labor Federation, and we are very proud to sponsor this bill. We believe that it's a smart and responsible strategy for job creation in California, and we desperately need to create jobs at this point. We've lost 1 million jobs since this recession began, and we feel like manufacturing will be a key area to expand. One, that it has such a high multiplier effect. For every job that we create in manufacturing, we're going to create 2.5 additional jobs in the broader economy. And at this time, manufacturers are having a hard time retaining or creating new jobs because they can't access the credit that they need. The global credit markets have tightened up, and banks just aren't lending. So if a manufacturer wants to retool, if they want to be able to expand a line so that they can get a grant, get a loan, or get a project, they don't have the access to the credit to do that. And we can throw tax break after tax break at manufacturers, but they're not going to be able to hire if they don't have the capital to expand. So this fund will offer low-interest loans and loan guarantees to manufacturers with a system to prioritize so that we make sure that employers who are creating good, stable, long-term jobs that provide benefits, that provide a living wage, that basically allow people to survive and get middle-class jobs have priority to be able to access this fund. This is a great strategy for California. We can bring in the clean tech, the green manufacturers of the future as a way to rebuild a California economy on a strong, solid, growing base. And as was mentioned, there is federal money that will be available for various funds, the Climate Bill, the Impact Act, and other states have already shown that this model works. Pennsylvania had set up a revolving loan fund using federal stimulus funds. Massachusetts is interested, and many other states are looking at this as a model for accountable economic development that really works and can be really targeted to bring those growth sectors to California. So we thank you very much and would urge your support.
Thank you. Anybody else in support? Any opposition? Questions from the members? Hearing none, we'll take up your bill as soon as we have members. You have your last bill, 16.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Madam Chair and Senators, AB 2443 enhances two elements of the state's international trade and foreign relations program. First, the bill requires a state point of contact on international trade issues to provide the legislation with copies of any formal correspondence between the administration to the U.S. Trade Representative. This merely closes a communication hole left over from the Trade Reform Bill in 2006. And secondly, the bill sets forth a renewed framework for the legislature and the governor to adopt sister state relationships. Among other things, the bill encourages the use of sister-state relationships to promote economic growth and well-being of small, medium, and large companies by increasing their potential for trade and investment, as well as providing a forum for sustained goodwill and cooperation between the elected leaders of the state of California and the sister state. There's no formal opposition, and the Chamber has removed its opposition as well. I respectfully ask for a vote.
Okay, now in the analysis, as you know, the government has recommended that OPR be eliminated, and we did vote to eliminate the number of positions within OPR. You may consider another entity to certify and monitor your sister relationships, sister cities?
Most definitely, Madam Chair.
Okay.
I'm very open to that.
Okay. Any questions from the members? Okay, we will take up your bill. Thank you for presenting.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senators.
I am going to take the chair's prerogative and present AB 2699 because we will be losing our witness.
Our what?
Our witness.
Oh. Whistles?
We have no whistles.
We have no whistles.
Yes, we have no minutes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I'm with you today presenting AB 2699 for Ms. Bass, who is unable to be here. I will start saying that Speaker Emeritus Karen Bass has introduced 2699 at the request of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. First, I will accept the author's amendments as noted in the analysis to provide podiatrists in the definition of healthcare practitioners. AB 2699 is a narrowly crafted measure to permit volunteer healthcare professionals from out of state to donate their skills to provide healthcare services under the direction of nonprofit charitable organizations such as Remote Area Medical or RAM. These practitioners would be exempt from California's licensing requirements for a short period of time during the healthcare event sponsored by the nonprofit entity. Only professionals in good standing and holding current valid licenses or certificates are permitted to provide care, and their medical credentials must be submitted to the applicable Health Healing Arts Board in California before any care is delivered. RAM, a Tennessee-based nonprofit group, has worked in conjunction with the Los Angeles County and has held 2 health fairs in Los Angeles since August of 2009. And each time, over 63 uninsured or underinsured people received basic medical, dental, and vision services. While successful, many people were not served because of the lack of volunteer healthcare professionals from California, and the out-of-state healthcare providers were prohibited from providing direct patient care because of California's licensing requirements. AB 2699 would remedy that situation by allowing volunteers from out of state with the proper credentials to provide care. Do we have a quorum? Did I see somebody?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
They keep popping in and out.
Okay. We're like Jack in the Boxes or whatever they're called, pop in the boxes. Okay. Members, let me also add that Speaker Emeritus and the sponsor are working with the administration to ensure the proper checks and balances are in place. I urge your eye on AB 2699, and with me today are Gerardo Pinero from the Los Angeles County Department of Health Services and Dr. Natalie Nevins, who spearheaded the RAM LA events.
Thank you very much, Senator. Honorable Chair and committee members, Gerardo Pinedo, LA County Department of Health Services. LA County is the proud sponsor of AB 2699. Each year, LA County treats over 700,000 individuals, providing 2.7 million outpatient visits and 330,000 visits to the ER, many with preventable but severely aggravated conditions. Unfortunately, we've seen a 16% increase in ER visits, many resulting from the newly unemployed who are losing their health care coverage. Already, LA County is home to over 2 million of the 6.6 million uninsured residents in California, many entering our hospitals through the most expensive and least ideal door of all, the emergency room. AB 2699 would greatly complement the safety net by allowing qualified, pre-screened, duly licensed healthcare professionals to donate their skills during sponsored healthcare events. We are talking about a variety of healthcare professionals, including doctors, dentists, optometrists, chiropractors, and nurses. In LA, we know the great benefits of volunteer care. We have collaborated with the nonprofit organization RAM, who held 2 large-scale mobile clinics where over 12,000 individuals were successfully treated during 2 events. Patients and volunteers came from throughout California, including LA, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Ventura counties, among others. In fact, they came from out of state to receive services. However, the need for physicians and clinicians was largely outweighed by the number of actual volunteers available within California. As reported in the Times, 100 dentists were needed, but only 30 showed. 20 eye doctors were required, but only 5 were on hand.
Hold on.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
We have a quorum. Will you call the roll, please?
Here.
Hold on. Grady McLeod here. Wyland. Onestad.
Here.
Calderon.
Here.
Corbett. Correa.
Here.
Flores. Walters. Yee.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Please continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Senator. Since the RAM event, we've come to 3 conclusions. 1, there is an abundant need for free health care services, as evidenced by the thousands of uninsured who turned out to receive them. 2, there is a drastic shortage of practitioner volunteers in California, as evidenced by the thousands of suffering individuals who had to be turned away. And 3, the mechanisms in AB 2699 ensure the utmost patient safety while allowing more individuals to be treated at sponsored events rather than being turned away. Therefore, LA County Department of Health Services urges your aye vote. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Natalie Nevins. I'm the president and CEO of Amritava World Health, which is a nonprofit for humanitarian aid. We were the fiscal sponsor for the last RAM LA event. I'm also the director of medical education at Downey Regional Medical Center for the Family Medicine Residency Program, and also a major in the United States Air Force Ready Reserve. I actually served as the medical director for the last RAM LA event, which was April 27th through May 3rd, 2010. We saw a little over 6,600 patients in 7 days for medical, dental, and vision care services. Over 16,000 services were rendered in the entire event, which we think is rather impressive. Unfortunately, the most challenging part of actually organizing an event like this is actually getting enough volunteer workers to get the job done. And we were forced to decrease the number of patients that we could see because we were not able to get enough volunteers. Legislation such as AB 2699 would allow us to do more events, such as RAM LA, more frequently and actually care for a greater number of patients that are in need, as we are very well aware of here in California. The public safety is our primary concern, and I want you to really understand how important this is to us. No-cost services should not be presumed to be second-rate care, and I've heard this, and there's no way that we ever believe that by taking care of people at no cost means that we don't care about their follow-up, their safety. It's of our utmost concern. No practitioners were able to practice without a local practitioner that was in charge. So, for example, the Los Angeles Dental Association was in charge of the dental area. We had the Fullerton School of Optometry along with Vosh, which was in charge of optometry, and I headed up the area for medical. So we had complete control. The Tzu Chi Foundation, which is locally based in California, also was in charge, helping us with medical, acupuncture, and chiropractic. Physicians are board certified based on national certifying exams, not on state exams. All licenses for the RAM LA event were verified using the state of California license verification systems from their websites. This was inclusive of all practitioners, from pharmacists, dentists, doctors, nurses, you name it. Doesn't make any difference what they were. We vetted their licenses. Licenses were verified to be active and unrestricted and valid through the dates of the event as well. The licensing board websites do show if anyone has any actions or restrictions against that practitioner. Anyone with an expired license or restricted license was rejected from participating. All practitioners were required to also show a valid picture ID at the time of registration that could be compared to their license. If it did not match exactly, they also were not allowed to participate. If practitioners from other states were allowed to come to California for an event, we would adhere to the same rigorous license check and ID verification as required for California practitioners. There is a significant precedence for allowing physicians in other states to provide care here in California. In disaster situations, we allow physicians to come here to practice, and the military and VA systems do not require a practitioner to have a local state license to be able to practice. We do have a healthcare crisis. We all know this. We have millions of uninsured and underinsured here in California. But we also have the capability of bringing together volunteers to take care of our residents that are in need right now. And we can do this to care for our medical, dental, and vision for all ages. This bill would add severely needed manpower for us to be able to do this job so we can actually do more free clinics across California to fill in the void that exists during this healthcare crisis. And I can tell you personally, I got calls from so many practitioners from other states, from nursing, physicians, dentists, saying we'd really like to come and help. And all I could tell them is you'll have an easier time going to Haiti than coming to the state of California to help us take care of the patients that are in need right now. So I urge you to vote aye on this bill so that we can take care of our most needed population here in California. Thank you.
Beth Capel on behalf of the Service Employees International Union. We originally looked at this bill because we had a concern that we were well aware of the RAM events and the important service they had provided. We were concerned that this could be abused during a labor dispute. Very pleased that the language that is before you today is very clear and references the existing law that narrowly defines emergency. But more than that, I want to say to you that as the members of this committee know, SEIU represents far too many working people who have no health insurance. Janitors, home care workers, nursing home workers, even hospital workers in some hospitals in the state. Those members of ours and their families, unfortunately, must be forced to rely on events like RAM until we get to health care reform in 2014 when working people should have coverage. So we're here today to support the concept of those who are uninsured obtaining the care they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support? Is there opposition? Go ahead.
Hello. Tricia Hunter with the American Nurses Association, California. I have 10 years of experience on a licensing board and time in the state legislature, and I'm bringing that experience to discuss this.
We should also say former Assemblywoman.
Thank you. I don't claim to be an expert about medical or dental licensing. I do claim to be an expert about nursing licensing. And when you are licensed in a state, you are only licensed to practice in that state. And so as the state of California, we have no jurisdiction over a nurse who's practicing in Arizona or in Colorado or in any other state unless that state brings action against the nurse for practicing in that state. And then we, through reciprocity issues, get notice of that and can take action on that license if they're licensed here as well. But if they're in another state, we have no jurisdiction over that license at all. So this nurse who's coming from Kansas, who's going to practice in the state of California, is practicing illegally, basically, on her license in Kansas, so she cannot use her Kansas license to practice here. So because she's practicing out of state, Kansas has no jurisdiction over her license because she's not licensed to practice in California. And by the way this bill is written, California has no jurisdiction over her license. So basically the person is an unlicensed person practicing nursing within the state of California. No malpractice insurance that a nurse carries will cover her for practicing unlicensed in another state. They will only cover you for the state that you're practicing in. And I'm not sure what kind of general insurance you can get. I know a hospital can't cover you for practicing outside your license. And so I don't know how they get coverage otherwise, but there is no malpractice insurance that will cover them. I have been a nurse for over 30 years, and I do 6 to 8 volunteer missions a year. I have an extensive network of volunteers who volunteer for those programs, not only in San Diego, but outside the United States. I've never been approached or asked to help to get volunteers. I have helped Assemblywoman Bass get volunteers for a health clinic before, but we have over 75 people who have their own networks that contact nurses. We have over 380,000 nurses in the state of California, plus another 100,000 inactive nurses nurses. And most of the nurses that I work with are people like me who no longer work full-time in the profession, who are able to change their schedules, work flexibly to be available to do this kind of volunteer work. With all the problems that we've had, and I have been the most adamantly upset with the LA Times articles, but with all the problems, with all the requirements, we know that me as a nurse at 58 has to get fingerprinted because I missed the 1990 deadline, that we now take 30 to 90 days to qualify a nurse to practice in the state of California. With the headlines you just talked about, with the problems with the national database and telling nurses from one state to another, because I don't have to tell you if I have a license in Colorado or if I have a license in Arizona. As long as I've got a good one in Kansas, why wouldn't that be the only one I tell you about when I'm practicing? With all those kinds of issues, we're asking you to take nursing out of this database. Out of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others in opposition?
Thank you. I'm Kelly Green. I'm with the California Nurses Association. And first of all, I just would like to say, from an organization that does champion increasing access to health care, we absolutely understand the intent of this legislation. And we commend the work that RAM has done to go around the country and to provide services to people in need. It's an absolute must. And we support that practice. However, because the bill would allow practitioners to come into California to practice without obtaining a California license, the bill raises serious patient safety concerns for us, and therefore we must oppose the bill in its entirety. As was stated previously, the Board of Registered Nursing or other state healing arts boards do not have authority over any practitioner that comes in and practices and does not have a license. If a person from out of state comes in and practices without permission, they can be cited and fined by a board. Under this legislation, the board couldn't even take that type of action, even if a patient was harmed, because they would have the legal permission to be here practicing. So a patient who is seen at an event, perhaps not a RAM event, but another nonprofit organization that wishes to provide this type of care, and is harmed by a practitioner from another state, their recourse would be to sue. May we remind the committee that these are uninsured individuals. They more than likely do not have the means necessary to litigate if they are harmed by a practitioner. It's a problem that we have, and therefore, in principle, we cannot support out-of-state practitioners coming in without a license. As was stated also previously, this bill would undermine California's current existing standards with regard to education and training, with regard to background checks that our state nurses have to undergo, and with regard to scope of practice, which in California we have for our nurses and other practitioners. We would not be certain that practitioners in other states would meet these standards. We'd simply be allowing them to come in to self-attest in writing that they don't have a suspension or a revocation against them. Frankly, in our opinion, that's just not good enough to ensure protection for our patients. Even if a practitioner were telling the truth in their testimony that they do not have a suspension or revocation against them in another state, they're not required to disclose any other type of disciplinary action posed against them, whether it be probation, whether it be practice restrictions. There's a whole litany of disciplinary action that can be taken against a practitioner that would not be disclosed here. This bill also undermines current legislative and administrative efforts to strengthen our disciplinary and enforcement system here in California. On one hand, we have efforts to try to increase standards for California practitioners, but then here we would allow practitioners from out of state to come in who would not have to meet any of those standards. So regardless of what we set forward as far as enforcement reform, this bill would be taking us a step backward by allowing individuals to come in, even if it's for a narrow period of time, to come in and not have to abide by those standards. Senator Onestad brought up the LA Times article that was printed about nurses who are licensed in California, but the board has recently discovered that they have disciplinary action against them in other states. Clearly, we have a problem here in ensuring that even California licensed registered nurses and potentially other practitioners, making sure that we're checking and verifying their backgrounds and taking a look at what kind of disciplinary action has been taken in other places. If we're having problems with our current licensees, we're opening the door, I think, for additional problems by allowing individuals who are unlicensed to come in and not have to meet our standards. So we ought not lessen standards for uninsured patients by basically eliminating licensing law for them and all of the protections that come with it. Instead, perhaps we can make better use of the practitioners in California who are willing to volunteer. I know the California Nurses Association, our members volunteer frequently, locally, statewide, internationally. We had thousands who did sign up to want to volunteer their services in Haiti, and I can imagine, given the good reputation of RAM and the need for services, that we could most likely work together to try to get the practitioners we need. With as many uninsured individuals that we have in this California, in our state, the demand for these services is great. And we realize that we probably need more practitioners out there to volunteer, but importing them from out of state is not the direction that we'd like to see our state go in. Thank you.
Before you leave, since you're up through the chair,
sure.
Since you're so good on doing the nursing thing, the next bill I have on just straighten nursing stuff, you're going to be with me, right?
Well,
okay.
May I respond or no?
It's only fair.
Depending on what policies are in that legislation, Senator, we'd love to work together with you.
No. You said that you are wholeheartedly, you're going to look for stuff. So we're going to have you there in our corner.
Well, we'd be happy to work with the Senator.
Are there others in opposition?
Mr. Chair, prior to, just let me say what Assemblymember Bass has said to me, that, and through her staff, that they are working with the administration to straighten some of these things. And prior to any health care event, the steps that are taken to ensure that there are sufficient checks and balances to ensure patient safety. 1, volunteer health care professionals are required to complete applications prior to becoming approved event volunteers, and they are required to include license numbers from their respective states. 2, the sponsoring entity verifies all license numbers submitted via each state's website to ensure that the practitioner is indeed licensed and in good standing. If a license has been suspended or revoked in another state, the practitioner is prohibited from volunteering at the health care event in California.
Comments or questions from the senators? Senator Yee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And maybe, to the sponsors or supporters and so on, the nurses, I think, raise a number of points. One is, who carries the liability of that particular professional in your event?
In every event that happens, practitioners carry their own malpractice insurance. Now, if they don't, like for example, Kaiser only covers their employees to work at a Kaiser facility. All of our entities from the Los Angeles Dental Society, the Suu Kyi Foundation, and VOSH were able to provide any practitioner who did not have their own malpractice insurance to give them coverage at no cost for the event. So the fact is that we already have these processes in place, and as we check their license, verify that it is active and unrestricted, then it's submitted to the correct insurance company, and they verify it, and they literally write a policy for the days that that person is working to cover them. So this is covered. It's something that can be managed without an issue, and the insurance companies have no problem with what state this person has a license in, as long as their license is active and valid and not restricted.
Senator Yee? Out-of-state volunteers, medical personnel, are being held to the same standards as the in-state medical personnel because the California Board of Registered Nursing does not endorse any specific type of liability of malpractice coverage for registered nurses.
Clearly, I think you have a particular understanding, and these nurses have another set of understanding.
That is correct.
So what am I supposed to do?
Well, the fact is that they didn't ask us these questions, and I've now worked on 2 events, and I am based here locally. We're happy to work with them. But the fact comes down to is that their argument that we have enough nurses in the state of California, well, there's enough doctors and everyone else, but I can't make them volunteer. And the fact is, if it hadn't been for the nursing students, if it hadn't been for the American career colleges, for nursing students, we would not have been able to put this event on. One of the schools alone brought us nearly 30 students every day to help us with the registration area. And it certainly wasn't for a lack of publicity out there. I think everybody knew the ARAM event was happening. We publicized it. We worked with every organization that we could possibly work with, from the Hospital Association, from even CAP MPT, which is an insurance company here in the state of California. They have more than 10,000 members. The Community Clinic Association, the Department of Health Services. We reached out to anyone and everyone, put the ads in the newspaper. We had a website for people to register. So it's certainly not a lack of us reaching out to ask for volunteers.
But I'll just end with this one last point or question. I think that the disagreement is not about in-state health professionals or students, but rather out-of-state.
Well, their arguments, there's two. One, they feel that we shouldn't need to go out of state because there's enough people here, and I'm telling you that there are enough bodies, but they're not volunteering, and I can't make them. Second is that out of state, for example, I'll give you a real-world example. If a nurse does something inappropriate in a clinic here, and she moves to Arizona, and she now has a license in Arizona, and that patient has a year to bring their claim. They bring the claim. They come to the board here, and the board says she's not practicing in the state of California anymore. That person has the same recourse, and no different than our clinic person for the free clinic or a regular clinic. That person's going to call Arizona and say, you know what, this nurse did this. I'm going to bring a claim against this person. That board would be unconscionable if they didn't investigate a nurse in their own state, which they're going to do. And they're going to look at that same event. Now, can I guarantee that another state's going to do these things? I can't guarantee anything, but the reality is they want to be able to protect their public. That's what a board's job is. Their primary job is not to take care of protecting the nurses. Their job is to protect the public.
No, I think the issue is one of practice in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I'm licensed in Colorado. My insurance covers me in my particular practice in Colorado.
Your insurance follows you wherever you go, as long as you've confirmed that with your policy. So I, as a physician, if I travel to another country, it covers me there as well.
So all of a sudden, I move to California,
mm-hmm.
and I start to treat patients. I don't tell my insurance company that that's what I'm going to be doing, but I'm going to open up a practice there. So will that insurance company cover me then? Or do I have to get permission from my insurance company that, guess what, I'm going to spend 10 days and treating XYZ under certain conditions and so on, and therefore, will you cover me on that particular event?
Absolutely, and that's what we would ask the practitioners to do, is to verify that they will have coverage from their own malpractice insurance before they come to the state. And if they don't, then to let us know, and we will merely add them as a rider onto one of the policies that exist here, so there's coverage. So they don't have to pay anything either way to make sure they're covered.
I think Senator Yee, having donated my services elsewhere, the insurance is not the issue. The issue here is, as a California licensed healthcare provider, if I go to Nevada and I don't have a license there, neither the Nevada State Board of Dentistry or the California State Board of Dentistry can do anything about any activities that I do in Nevada. So the nurse coming from Kansas is not under the discipline of any board or regulation of any board. And that is a problem that we ought to be addressing in this bill. The insurance issues, she's basically correct. Your insurance will follow you as long as you remain in your scope of practice. But the regulation of, does the California licensing entity have anything to do with an out-of-state practitioner? Nothing. In fact, I don't know if you're aware of it, but the California Medical Board cannot even go after somebody in California without a license who's practicing medicine in California, because they can only go after their own licensees. So that's the problem in this bill. The other problem that I have in this bill, ma'am, and maybe you can address it, it's for a 10-day period, but it doesn't say how many times a year. Now, we could have a denials market of health care in Los Angeles, where once every 2 weeks you're going to put on a 3-day clinic or do this 3 or 4 day exercise, and we could have the same people coming over and over, essentially practicing in California. I think there's a problem there with saying that it's just a 10-day event and then they can't go, but a month later they could come back for another 10-day event, or even 2 weeks later. So those are the two of the questions that I have with this bill. Any other comments or questions? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Senator Lee.
He has a comment here, my other witness.
Senators, I think those are all very good issues that we have been looking at. Pardon me. I do want to stress that it's not long term. It is only 10 days, as Senator Onestad has mentioned. There's nothing that would preclude patient recourse. So if a patient felt that they had been harmed here in California, there's nothing to preclude them from filing a complaint, contacting the board.
Who would they complain to?
They could complain to the board that licenses that practitioner out of state, and that board.
I will tell you that that's not true. If you're a nurse licensed in Kansas and a patient in California is harmed and they write a letter to the nursing board in Kansas, they will get a letter back saying, not in our jurisdiction. She was not practicing in Kansas. So the only complaint is if she goes and hires a lawyer and goes to court. Now, is that what we want?
Well, we definitely don't want that. Our research has shown that they can lodge complaints with other boards, and as you stated, the arm of the law is indeed very long. So nothing precludes judicial relief here as well. They can, if they feel they've been harmed, they can file a lawsuit. They have that recourse. So from our perspective, they can file that complaint and they can sue that practitioner out of state. Additionally, there was a suggestion earlier that the uninsured would not necessarily avail themselves of the processes, and I beg to differ respectfully. Just because you're uninsured or underinsured does not mean you're any less intelligent and any less capable of availing yourselves of these processes. I would argue that they're equally capable of availing themselves. Finally, with regard to the LA Times articles, I read those two earlier, and I would respectfully disagree with the way that was interpreted by an earlier speaker. I would argue that the news that came out today tells us that other states are indeed vetting their licensees carefully, and they are doing so in ways that perhaps we ought to look at. And with this bill, the mechanism in this bill, we would avail ourselves of those same processes that other states have implemented, which we believe are very good in most cases.
Any other questions or comments from the senators? Would you like to close?
I would respectfully ask for your aye vote. It appears that to date, no harm has happened to any patient at any point, which is not to say that it could somewhere in the future, but as yet nothing has happened to any patient. And we have to think of all of those people that have been served that would have gotten no service in any place. Turn off your phone. So anyway, sorry. So that those people are now served. There's only been 2 events. They don't foresee having an event every week. So I would respectfully ask, on behalf of, I imagine it's a lot of work, on behalf of former Speaker Bass, that you give her an aye vote.
Clerk will call the roll.
Need a motion?
Been moved by Senator Calderon. Clerk will call the roll.
Negrete McLeod?
Aye.
Negrete McLeod, aye. Wyland? Onestad?
Aye.
Onestad, aye. Calderon? Calderon, aye. Corbett? Correa? Aye. Correa, aye. Flores? Flores, aye. Walters? Yee? No. Yee, no.
I'm going to take the phone.
Bill has 5 to 1.
Great grandchildren.
Okay, next is Mr. Portantino. Is he here?
Walters will not be here at all. Mr. Portantino, you have item 6A. Mr. Portantino, you have item 6, AB 1889.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. AB 1889 provides for several substantive and technical changes to the Private Post-Secondary Education Act of 2009, enacted I was the author of AB 48. Specifically, this bill makes the following changes to the Act. First, the bill clarifies that remedies available under the former Act are available to students for violations that occurred while the former Act was in place. I understand this provision presents some problems, and I will offer authors' amendments to delete 94809.6 from the bill. Second, the bill provides a one-year delay in implementation for flight schools and requires the legislature to hold hearings to review the appropriateness of regulating these programs. Third, institutions offering an uncredited doctor degree must disclose to prospective students that this program is unaccredited. Fourth, it allows the Bureau to publish a list of eligible examinations for ability to benefit students if the USDE does not have an approved exam. It has come to my attention that certain training programs do not have relevant U.S. Department of Ed approved tests. This provision is intended to provide flexibility in such cases. Fifth, it ensures students are provided a full refund if they cancel the course on the first day or seventh day after enrollment. Sixth, it alters definitions of graduates employed in the field to require graduates are gainfully employed within 6 months of graduation in a position relevant to their education, and this will ensure accurate job placement reporting. And seventh, it clarifies that the education specialist and senior specialist positions be full-time and based in Sacramento office of the Bureau. With these authors' amendments, I respectfully ask for an aye vote, and I want to thank the chair and committee for working with my staff and members of the committee who had provided a significant amount of input on a number of these amendments. I'm happy to take them and respectfully ask for an aye vote. And I have many witnesses.
Okay, witnesses in support.
Madam Chair, can I just clarify the amendment that you are taking, Assemblyman, starts on page 3, line 16, ending on page 4, line 4. Take your time.
Page 16.
Page 3, line 16.
Page 3, line 16.
Remedy that could have been ordered to redress a violation of the former Private Post-Secondary and Vocational Education Reform Act, all the way down to line 4.
That is correct.
Yeah, we strike section 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just point of clarification. Thank you so much.
Okay. Witnesses in support. Yes, go ahead. Mr. Gage.
Senator, that we would just be striking all of section 1.
All of section 1?
Yeah, we don't need any part of the provision in there.
Got it.
In terms of section 1. Okay.
All right. One more time. Witnesses in support.
Judith Michaels, California Federation of Teachers, and we've worked with the author both on the prior bill and on this bill, and we're happy to support it today.
Thank you.
I want to say just that it really went into the direction of student protection and job placement, and that's something we wanted to see.
Thank you.
And I'm the Dean of the Sanville Institute for Clinical Social Work and Psychotherapy, a statewide doctoral program, and I'm very happy to also be able to support Mr. Portantino's legislation.
Thank you.
As amended.
Thank you.
I'm John Bilarowski, president of the Western Institute for Social Research in Berkeley. We've been state approved as a degree granting program since 1977, and we enthusiastically support the consumer protection provisions and appreciate Assembly Members Portantino's cooperation in having dialogue with us.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, I'm Kathy Barankin here on behalf of Ryokan College. We were previously opposed to the bill, but are happy to announce that we are now in support, and thank Mr. Portantino for his very good work on this bill.
Thank you.
Juan Inigas from the Association for Private Post-Secondary Education in California. We, too, were previously opposed, but thank Assemblyman Portantino and your committee staff for working with us to make the amendments. We're strongly in support of the bill.
Thank you.
Kelly Green with the California Nurses Association in support.
Thank you. Helen Roth Dowden with SEIU Local 1000. We represent the professionals who work over in the Bureau, and Assemblymember Portantino put in to make sure that there were 5 of these positions were kept. And in the bill, it has those 5 positions. What we found out afterwards, though, as the governor had decided to disperse all those people, even though many of them have lived and worked here for many, many years, and as a result, we put that these positions will continue in Sacramento because that was the original intent, and so we're quite happy to have worked with the Assembly member, and we're in full support of the bill.
Chair and members, good afternoon. Laura Brown on behalf of the National Air Transportation Association. We support the provision outlined in page 4, which would provide for a 1-year delay in the implementation of AB 48 from last year, and during that period to host legislative informational hearings on the appropriateness of inclusion or not of this industry within the Bureau's regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, John Pfeiffer, California Regional Representative of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, and we also support the provisions regarding flight training.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, James Brannon from AZ Flying Service, Fresno, California, and we're here to support AB 48.
Thank you very much.
Fred Main on behalf of Career Education Corporation, and with the amendments that the Assembly member has offered, we're now neutral on the bill and have removed our opposition. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Matt Back on behalf of the California Association of Private Post-Secondary Schools, or CAPS. Also with the amendments, we remove our opposition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the Consumer Federation of California. We have support on just one particular provision of the bill dealing with the definition of employed in the field. So on that basis, we support.
Okay. Anybody else? Opposition? Opposition to the bill? Oh, I thought we were all going to sing.
Oh, we were going to be.
Yeah, we were going to sing Kumbaya.
Luis Portillo, Department of Consumer Affairs. While we don't object to the majority of the bill's provisions, we do object to the language placing the 5 education specialists in Sacramento. Currently, the Bureau plans to place 3 of those positions in Southern California, as about 60+% of the schools are located in Southern California. That decision was made to reduce travel costs on the Bureau. We think it's the most effective way for the Bureau to implement the new legislation. Additionally, the legislature will have an opportunity to review the Bureau's operations in 2013 when the Bureau of State Audits submits a report to the legislature on the Bureau's operations.
Thank you. Questions from the members?
Move bill.
Okay, bill has been moved.
Grady McLeod.
Aye.
Grady McLeod, aye. Wyland, Onestad, Calderon.
As amended.
As amended.
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett, Correa.
Aye.
Correa, aye. Flores.
Aye.
Flores, aye. Walters, Yee. That's 4.
Okay, you have 4. We need one more, but Mr. Yee's out.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members,
welcome.
and thank you, committee.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Mr. Gaines is out there.
Mr. Gaines? He has item 9, 2128, and if the sergeants will call Mr. Solorio and Mr. Ruskin and Mr. Amiano. They're the last 3. Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. AB 2128 would expand the current requirement for all licensed private patrol operators, known as PPOs, in California, and increase the minimum liability coverage from $500,000 to $1 million. The current requirement of $500,000 coverage for only PPOs with armed guards is inadequate, since these companies only make up 5% of the industry. This means that 95% of security contracts are exempt from coverage, leaving consumers, employees, and the public at large vulnerable to uninsured PPOs or underinsured PPOs. I understand that some may believe the outcome of this bill would be a barrier to entry to newer, smaller PPOs. A report done by one of the largest insurance brokers in California, specializing in private security policies to the security industry, shows that increasing coverage to $1 million typically only increases annual premium by $50 to a couple $100, depending on the company's size. So I would ask for your aye vote.
Okay, there's a technical amendment on page 4, comment 7. Do you wish to accept that as a author's amendment?
Yes, we're willing to entertain that amendment, which would provide for smaller security operators under 10 employees.
Also, you have indicated
technical amendment.
Yeah.
There's a technical amendment representative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you've also indicated to make increased insurance requirements as a condition of licensure for the PPOs, but there's currently nothing in the bill to do it.
Yes, Madam Chair and members, Kelly Jensen representing CalSAGA. I think we had a number of discussions with the committee consultant who indicated their, how would we prove this up? And currently, when we bid for contracts, we provide this information, but clearly we'd have no objection to providing this information to the department or the Bureau when we applied for a license or continued our license. So we'd be happy with that amendment as well. If I could just speak to the bill
do you wish your
yes,
and then you can answer
let
any
me
questions.
if I could, as you know, Madam Chair, over the last couple of years, the security guard industry has taken large strides to try and continue to professionalize itself with mandating training requirements and other regulation, both on contract security guards and proprietary security guards. This bill is in that vein to try and make sure that those people that are licensed to protect us have adequate insurance requirements. I checked today on our lobbying requirements as it relates to insurance requirements, and many times our lobbying firm is asked to have a $10 million insurance requirement put up for contracts. So I find it odd that somebody who's not in the business of protecting the public is asked to have $10 million, but yet we have security guard companies that have no requirement for insurance. So this is just another attempt to professionalize this industry and make sure that those people that are out there protecting us have some recourse if they actually do something incorrectly.
How much would $1 million cost a small individual?
Do you want to address that?
Go ahead and state your name. And
My name is Brian Baer. I'm a small Sacramento private patrol operator as well as a board member of CalSAGA. It doesn't appear, well, the insurance company, a little nervous with you guys here. The insurance company that did the insurance broker that did the study said that typically $1 million policy, if their premium is, say their premium is $5,000 a year, it would be anywhere from 1 to 2% increase is all for armed. It's not a very big increase at all. It's not a big increase to take it to the $1 million.
So this wouldn't put smaller operators out of business to raise their insurance?
I think it would give them more of a competitive advantage. A small operator, we run 140 employees, but a smaller operator, say with 20 or 30, that can come in and say, I've got insurance, here's where I'm at. It puts him at an advantage to do the job.
So all operators have to have some kind of a protection? Not
currently. Currently, 95% of the industry does not have to have it. If the client doesn't ask for it, they don't have to show it. On our side, where we work, we keep a high amount of insurance.
Okay. So the ones that carry weapons are the ones that have to be insured?
Currently, they have to carry only $500,000 worth of insurance. That's it.
And your bill, excuse me, I'm talking to you, Mr. Gaines, your bill says that if they don't carry weapons, they don't have to have insurance? Or does that mean that everybody would?
Current. Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, so everybody under the bill, we would take everybody to $1 million. So those right now, as the author indicated, right now 95% of the industry doesn't have to carry any insurance at all. Only armed guards have to carry $500,000. So this would take the entire industry to $1 million.
So we're not sure the small businesses that now do not carry insurance. We don't know would this harm them.
And again, we think it's a very nominal cost. We believe it's about 40 cents per man hour, which is about 4%. Again, we believe that's a small price to pay for consumers being protected, and that people that entrust these people to go out and protect Arden Fair Mall or others would have some type of insurance.
Okay. Is there anybody else in support of the bill? Is there anybody in opposition to this bill?
Madam Chair, Brian Warren on behalf of the Department of Consumer Affairs. We believe that there's no direct evidence of an actual need for this bill at this time, and as has been discussed up here, we believe that it could increase costs on smaller businesses, which could in turn be passed on to consumers as well.
Okay. Any questions from any of the members?
Yeah, what is the need for the bill then?
Wouldn't you?
Well, I think it just makes sense that if you're in business as a security guard operator, you ought to have insurance. And if someone's not operating without insurance coverage, why are they in the business? I'm an insurance broker. I deal 70% of our business is dealing with small businesses, and kind of the general standard for coverage across the board, depending on whether you're a restaurant owner or a general contractor, is $1 million of coverage. The cost differential for armed security guards is not that much. You're looking at a couple of percentage points. The degree of risk really is in the first $500,000 of coverage. So when we increase that threshold from $500,000 to $1 million, the risk is not that great, but I think it's good to have that coverage from a protection standpoint for the public. I think a lot of folks are not aware of the fact that they're maybe making the assumption that they have coverage in place when they're hiring a security guard.
I have a question. Yes. As a business, just, in general, aren't businesses required to have errors and omissions insurance and that kind of thing? I mean, isn't there some kind of an umbrella insurance that already covers some kind of liability?
No, generally they're required through contracts. I mean, at least the clients that I'm dealing with have contractual arrangements with, let's say they're leasing space, the landlord will require it, or they may be doing business with larger corporate entities that require it, but not necessarily.
So if I'm an employer or operator of security guards, and I have a security agent or officer that does something in the field that causes either harm or damage, what happens now?
Well, if they've got coverage, you're in good shape.
Well, I mean, if you're not required, if you don't have to carry a gun, you're not required. So what happens now? I think that's what we're trying to get at. Why the need for this?
I have to litigate.
What will happen, whether or not to answer your first question that Ted grabbed, the DCA can tell us what requirements right now there are for the guard companies. There's no, my understanding, and being in the industry 33 years, there's currently, I have to carry no liability insurance if I didn't want to. What happens now is if a client is damaged, and I've had clients damaged before. If a client, that's not that it happens all the time, but I've had a client damaged in the last 30 years. But if it weren't for the insurance company, then it would be out of pocket. Pretty typically, given that insurance is there, it's a much safer bet for me as a business owner. Again, I see the bill as a further step in professionalizing the industry and helping the people that understand the ramifications of what happens without losing their whole business.
So if I'm a client and yes, I'm damaged for some kind of error by an officer,
yes,
the only way I can recover damages is to sue the operating company. And if they don't have they're not required to have an insurance policy. We're talking about how is this going to affect small businesses? Well, if they're being sued now, and they don't have insurance, they're likely to go out of business.
Are they being sued?
Don't know. I mean, that's the whole liability
we just
question.
Heard the department tell us that there's no problem.
Well, to the department's point, with all due respect to the senator and the department, I think the issue is because people assume that they're holding insurance, we're bidding, or many companies are bidding against other operators that may or may not have insurance. And so, again, it's $1 million. It's not a lot of money when we're talking about an insurance policy. So, this kind of sets a minimum for people that are licensed and are performing security functions, protecting people and property in California. They don't have to have an insurance policy. It seems a little odd, but
we're seeing more and more with the budget cuts that are going on in the state, and particularly the county of Sacramento, with the sheriff's department reducing the amount of the amount of law enforcement they can provide. You see an increase for security. We're going to see an increase in the armed guards, particularly in local cases that have gone, and even in the last year, when you see the horrific shooting or a problem with a security guard, he may have been absolutely protecting his life when he made the shooting. There's a couple of them that are out there now that have happened in the last 18 months. $500,000 isn't going to cover it. It's not going to happen.
Not even to cover their lawyer.
Exactly. The way the legal deal is right now, and you guys know it more better than I do, but it won't even begin to cover it. So a fellow that's worked his life and done really well gets by and says, I don't have to take that risk. The state says I'm fine without insurance. I can do my license. He's betting his life, and he's betting his family's life every time he allows an employee to go to work for him.
Move the bill.
Okay. The bill has been moved. There is no further witnesses. Did you wish to close?
I just ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it due process amended?
This is, yes.
But he has to turn it around.
Due pass is amended to the Senate floor. Yes.
Grady McLeod.
Aye.
Grady McLeod, aye. Wyland. Onestad.
Aye.
Onestad, aye. Calderon.
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett. Correa. Flores. Walters. Yee.
Okay. It's uncomfortable.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Solorio, I saw him here. Yes. Has item 8, 2077.
Madam Chair and members, I'm back with a great bill that will enable hospitals to invest in technology that will reduce the risk of medication errors. It's a patient protection measure that addresses a public policy issue that has been with us before. I'm pleased to report that we agreed to some amendments that are now in print that resolves the little bit of opposition we had 2 weeks ago. These amendments clarify that hospital pharmacies must comply with relevant federal laws and that they cannot stockpile compounded medications beyond what's needed for their own hospital patients. That way they won't be selling it to others. We clarified that. With that, I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Witnesses in support.
Madam Chair, members, Bryce Doherty on behalf of the California Society of Health System Pharmacists, the proud co-sponsors of the bill. Just wanted to thank you, Madam Chair, and the due diligence of your staff over the last couple of weeks to get this bill into a position where we've removed the opposition, and want to thank all the members of the committee for their time and energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, Barbara Glazer with the California Hospital Association, also a co-sponsor of the bill, and we're pleased to see that the amendments remove the opposition and urge your support of the bill.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Cassie Gilson on behalf of Hespera, and I'd like to thank the author and the sponsors and staff of the committee for working with us, and happy to say that we were able to reach amendments that remove everyone's opposition.
Thank you.
Move the bill.
Okay. Any others in support?
Did you move it?
And Mr. Solari said there is no opposition. Is there? Okay. And we already heard this bill.
Quick.
Did you have a question?
No, move it.
Okay, move the bill. All right. The bill has been moved.
Grady McLeod.
Aye.
Grady McLeod, aye. Wyland. Onestad.
Aye.
Onestad, aye. Calderon.
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett. Correa. Flores. Walters. Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye.
Thank you. That was good.
Thank you.
4-0.
Thank you. I see we have Mr. Amiano here, and he has item 14.
Put on my white suit. For the executive chair.
Good save.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members, for this opportunity to present AB 2393. AB 2393 ensures that prospective students receive an accurate accounting of the number of former graduates who gained employment in the actual jobs for which they were trained. This bill will require that for apprenticeship and nursing programs, graduates counted in placement rates must be employed in a position or job with duties that meet the requirements established by the Division of Labor Standards or Board of Registered Nursing. AB 2393 will establish minimum requirements for job placements in nursing and apprenticeship programs, specifically by requiring that a student must maintain employment for a minimum of 60 days within the existing six-month period. This bill is supported by the Consumer Federations of California, the California Nurses Association, the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges, and the State Building and Construction Trades Council of California. Here with me today is Ignacio Hernandez and Richard Hobler. Well, I guess you're not Richard. With the I learned that up here in Sacramento. Gender differences. Consumer and Kelly Green with the California Nurses Association. Thank you.
Witnesses in support.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the Consumer Federation of California. We are the sponsors of this bill. In the context of for-profit vocational institutions, there's been a historical problem, and I know we've talked about a lot in this committee over the last few years, with students being misled. Advertisements telling students if they go to this school, sign up for this program, that there's a 90% enrollment graduation rate, 90% job placement rate with certain salaries. What we found over the years that that's simply not true. So there have been a lot of lawsuits over the years. And so what this bill seeks to do, and it's been discussed in different contexts, is to provide a standard that is across the board so that schools know how to define a successful job placement. Right now, under the bill that was adopted last year, there is no standard. So one school may say, well, our graduate got a job for one day, a single day in a certain occupation, and count that as a positive job placement. Another school may use a standard of 45 days. And so there's really no way for schools to have a standard to follow, and there's no way for students to be able to feel comfortable and confident that the job placement rates are the same across the schools, and feel confident to incur the types of debt that they are undergoing. Let me just close by saying that Congress right now, as we speak, over the last week or so, have been having a lot of hearings about these institutions, trying to tighten the language, tighten oversight, tighten how financial aid is given to these institutions. So this has been an ongoing problem. I know this issue was addressed last year in AB 48. I just want to state that the author, Mr. Portantino, has voted for our bill on the Assembly side, also spoke on the floor when asked whether or not he supported it, to make clear that he did support this change, and the bill that was passed out of this committee was slightly different that was ultimately adopted. So we think it is a proper addendum. It's very narrow, just for the building trades and also for the nurses. We ask for your support and available for questions.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Kelly Green with the California Nurses Association.
It's on.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Individuals who embark upon a career in nursing dedicate a significant amount of time and resources to their education, and we think that it's fair that students who are going into these programs have a generally accurate understanding of what their placement may eventually be. And with that, these institutions should be required to accurately provide them with placement and job placement information. Currently, many RN graduates are having difficult times finding work, and as a result, they are taking jobs in health facilities that are not related directly to nursing. Under current law, these institutions can inflate their reputations by including these nurses in their placement and employment success rates simply because they're employed in a health facility. We think that this is misleading, and it gives students a false sense of what their real employment chances are.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how can that be? There has been a hue and cry for 10 years that I've been here that there isn't enough nurses. How could they not find a job?
What was that last sentence?
Well, to answer both of you,
go ahead,
currently nurse graduates are experiencing difficulties finding jobs within hospitals. There are problems with, or I shouldn't say problems, but the attrition rate is low, so many nurses are continuing to work rather than retire. We know that many nurse graduates, once they go to work, they take jobs, for example, in skilled nursing facility, and they are later determine when they try to go find employment in a hospital that the hospital finds that their experience doesn't necessarily give them enough for them to be hired in a hospital setting. So these are what we're hearing. It's actually a lot of anecdotal evidence to it. The Board of Registered Nursing is currently working on a survey to try to really gain some real true data on the problem that nurse graduates are having finding jobs within the hospital setting currently. So the point of that last sentence was that there are nurse graduates who may take a job within a health facility simply to be there, to get their foot in the door, that take a job that may not be directly related to nursing, and that because that job is within a health facility, that the institution can count that as a placement in their rates. This bill would stop that from happening by saying that your job actually has to be required to do something with nursing. I just have one more point to add, in that the provisions in the bill that create the 60-day requirement to be included in the job placement, that's another important piece for nurse graduates because of the problems that they're having finding work. Many private post-secondary institutions are teaming up with hospitals to provide internship-like placements for nurses. They're very short-term. They're often low to no wages in some instances, and we don't think that that's not necessarily considered gainful employment. So the 60-day standard in this bill is really relevant to nurse graduates because it does create a standard for what is considered gainful employment and is important for our students to know when they go into their education. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? I have a question, Mr. Amiano. Seeing that Mr. Portantino's bill that was passed was it last year or this year? Last year. Does your bill, because the regulations haven't even been put in yet, and is this a little premature?
Well, I'll let Ignacio help me here, but actually, as we speak, this is happening, and so in those circumstances, we would like to have this bill accomplished because of what's happening as we speak. So the situation is not premature, and the bill actually has been overdue.
And why 60 days? Why not longer? Why not shorter?
Madam Chair, the 60 days was taken out of the statute that expired. Okay. And so that's why we chose 60 days, just for consistency's sake.
Prior regulation.
The prior regulation, right. It stated 60 days.
Before it sunsetted.
That's correct. And it was actually much more specific. It had 60 days, plus you also had to state how many hours per week, if it was full-time or part-time. It was much more complicated. So we just went with the 60 days. We're obviously open to considering if there's some other number, but we thought just to simplify it with the old standard, we figured schools were subject to that standard back then. It'd be easier for them to handle that now. And so that's why we did that. As to your question of whether this is premature, I know Mr. Portantino was asked that on the Assembly floor, and he spoke up and said because they're still developing these regulations, that this is the time we can do it, but once they're in place, then we can't do it. And the bill did change slightly on this particular issue of employment in the field from how it was voted, both in the Assembly and also out of this committee. It's a much more, it's a much broader definition that's in place now than what was voted out of here.
Okay. Now, is there any opposition to the bill? I didn't call that. Okay. And if everybody will not leave, because we're going to open the roll as soon as we hear Mr. Ruskin. We just have one more bill. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Laura Brown on behalf of the California Coalition of Accredited Career Schools. We're in opposition, as we were, to this policy measure that was vetted last year in your committee under AB 48. This committee voted the 60-day policy issue down. The 60-day within 6 months is an arbitrary number. It doesn't, all it does is make it prohibitive for schools to count valid placements. So 60 days doesn't have any nexus or correlation as articulated in the committee analysis with the quality of education the student received.
Okay. Except that if it was 60 days in the sunsetted provisions before, I mean...
Yeah, I didn't find it in the Prior Reform Act. Maybe it was somewhere in regulations, but it certainly wasn't in Rod Wright's bill that I noticed. In any case, again, I would respectfully ask for opposition from this committee as the committee last year had voted this down. And keep in mind, respectfully, members, that AB 48 is very tight in its definitions of graduates employed in the field and job placement rates. Those were definitions that took many years to cultivate and come to agreement on, and I do believe it is premature to add a 60-day or any other time period within that 6-month provision.
Go ahead.
Luis Portillo, Department of Consumer Affairs. While the department continues to support the goal of consumer protection, we do object to singling out a specific profession or program. We think that it undermines the uniformity that was reached in the prior act. It's a step backwards. So we urge your no vote.
Okay.
Matt Back with Ackler & Associates, again on behalf of CAPS. We too are opposed. We shared some of the same sentiments that have been expressed. And also AB 48 that was just put in place would make it illegal for us to make some of these assertions that these folks are saying that we can make. We can't make them under 48. So we don't necessarily need this provision, which is only going to confuse matters. We're now going to have 3 definitions of graduates employed in the field. If this were to become law, it would only make it harder for students, make it harder for schools, and we ask for your no vote.
Okay. What would prevent an enterprising lawyer from opening a class action suit that said this school only had 58 days of the students, and what would prevent that?
Nothing prevents a lawyer from doing
I was going to say ethics.
No, but I mean,
nothing prevents a legislator.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to make sure I'm clear on your question of whether or not somebody could file a lawsuit saying that they're not complying.
Says this school, didn't have 60 days; they had 58 days, or somebody was employed for 45 days, whatever.
I think, as with any provision of the statute, if they're not complying, that the oversight is by the bureau that's being created. So it would take a lot for an attorney to be able to do that. I can say that there were lawsuits under the old statute. Don't get me wrong. In fact, the Attorney General of California did file suit because there were schools that were claiming certain percentages of successful job placements, and it turned out they were making up employers, or turned out that they really weren't employed for that period. So whether it's 60 days or 1 week, or under current law it's 1 day, they could be sued if it really turns out that it wasn't 1 day. So and that's part of the problem with the current statute. It doesn't specify how long someone has to be employed for it to be a successful job placement. And so all we're saying is there needs to be some standard. We rely on the 60 because that's what was there. Okay. Our intent is not to open up lawsuits. Frankly, we've had enough of those in this context. We want to prevent that, actually.
Okay, well, I understand, and I want protection for the consumers. I want protection for students, but we're kind of holding private post-secondary schools to a different level, because public schools, all the universities that are graduating students that pay a lot of money to, and there's no guarantee that they're going to get a job there. Right now, there's a whole bunch of people that have graduated from Berkeley, from whatever school,
yeah.
and there's
I do think it's an apples and orange situation. I think there is the promise that we make to people when we say we're going to provide you with a higher education, the American dream. This is to me a more commercial venture where people actually advertise. In San Francisco, we had the Culinary Institute. It was very inspirational to see all these young kids of color wearing the chef's attire, promising jobs, going into debt with student loans, and then finding the door closed, and actually the school was sued and did close. And I think we owe that to kids. I think that we need to take this extra step. I think this is for the benefit of the students. That could be my close.
I was going to say, that was your close.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, because we actually addressed that. But
all right. Okay, that was his close. Do I have anybody? Bill has been moved.
Grady McLeod?
Aye.
Grady McLeod, aye. Wyland? Onestad?
No.
Onestad, no. Calderon? Corbett? Correa? Flores? Walters? Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye. Flores, aye. It's 3-1 right now.
It's 3-1. You need 2 more votes, right? 2 more votes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
And our last bill, Mr. Ruskin. But I don't want anybody to go because we're going to have to vote.
Chair.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
Mr. Co-Chair. Lock the door. Go ahead and present your bill. You have the last bill, item 132361.
Thank you. This is, as you say, AB 2361. This is a bill that extends the sunset on AB 889 from 2005. I think this is quite an important bill. It deals with weighing and measuring devices. Weighing and measuring devices are used by the sealers and agricultural inspectors throughout the state to ensure that consumers are not cheated, to ensure that when a consumer goes to a scale in a supermarket or goes to a gas pump at a gas station, that that the number of gallons or pounds they ostensibly pay for is what they get. This not only protects consumers, but it protects honest businesses, creates a level playing field for honest businesses, which I am sure are the great majority. This bill will extend the sunset from 2011 to 2013. As you know, I'm sure, the truck rental companies had some concerns. There has been an agreement reached. They are neutral. And with that, I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Bill has been moved. Go ahead and give your testimony. There is no opposition. Is that correct?
Correct. No, there is none.
Okay.
Matt Cyberling on behalf of the County Agricultural Commissioners and Sealers Association. The Assembly member gave a great synopsis of the bill and the program, so I will respectfully ask for your aye vote and offer up Frank Carl, who's our legislative chair, for any technical questions. Thank you.
Erin Gilbert for the County of San Diego in support.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Frank Carl, Sacramento County Agricultural Commissioner and Director of Weights and Measures, in support of the bill, and just here to respond to any questions you might have.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Jason Schmelzer for the Truck Renting and Leasing Association. We are neutral on the bill because of the agreement that we've reached with the author and the sponsor. So, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. The bill has been moved. Are there any questions? Was there any questions? Okay. Go ahead and call for the roll.
McGrady McLeod?
Aye.
McGrady McLeod, aye. Wyland? Onestad? Onestad, aye. Calderon? Corbett?
Local government.
Correa?
Yeah.
Flores? Flores, aye. Walters? Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye.
Where did they go? Where did he go?
How many votes?
4. 5.
All right. Mr. Correa, did he step out for... Okay. Okay.
His tea's here. It's very cool.
As soon as he comes in, close the door and stand there. No, there's Miss Corbett. Okay, we are going to start with a consent agenda.
Okay.
With a consent agenda?
Will I leave?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ruskin. I'm sorry. I got so caught up in the moment.
These are all the bills I think.
Okay. The consent bills are item 4, AB 1809, item 10, AB 2130, item 12, AB 2344, 17, AB 2500, 19, 2683, 22 was pulled.
No.
Oh, it was put on. Okay. Ms. Hayashi, 2104. Do I have a motion for the consent? The consent agenda has been moved by Mr. Onestad. Call for the vote.
McGrady McLeod?
Aye.
McGrady McLeod, aye. Wyland? Onestad? Aye. Onestad, aye. Calderon?
I'm sorry, which bill is this?
The consent agenda.
Yes, aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett? Correa?
Aye.
Correa, aye. Corbett, aye. Flores? Flores, aye. Walters? Yee?
Okay. And we will start with item 1, which is AB. That passes 7-0. That the consent. Oh, we need a motion for item 1, Mr. Furatani.
Move the bill.
The bill has been moved. That's AB 549.
McGrady McLeod?
Aye.
McGrady McLeod, aye. Wyland? Onestad?
No.
Onestad, no. Calderon?
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett?
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa?
No.
Correa, no. Flores? Walters? Yee? It's 3-2.
3-2. That bill.
Flores, aye. Makes that 4-2.
Madam Chair, can I say something about that?
Yes.
Okay. In my discussion with
the good assembly member, I told him that I'd be willing to go ahead and support this bill with the proviso that he is going to work with, I guess, the staff as it moves over to, I think, appropriation. It goes to appropriation. I think after
Yes.
that there would be someone who is licensed in California to oversee the work of these individuals, and I'm fine with that.
Okay.
With that, then I'm an aye.
Ye aye. Passes 5-2.
No, does she?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Okay, that passes and it goes to appropriation. Item 2 was AB 646, and we need a motion.
So moved.
That's due pass to Health Committee.
That's due pass to Health Committee.
Whose bill is it?
That's Mr. Swanson.
Grady McLeod?
Aye.
Grady McLeod, aye. Wyland? Onestad?
No.
Onestad, no. Calderon?
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett? Correa?
Aye.
Correa, aye. Flores? Flores, no. Walters? Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye.
Corbett? Oh, sorry, I didn't hear him call your name.
4-2.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, guys.
That bill has 4-2. That bill fails.
I know I'm doing
Yeah, and this is the last committee hearing, so there is no reconsideration. That bill fails.
It was on reconsideration.
It was on reconsideration, so it fails. Okay, item 3 is AB 1558. I need a motion. That's Mr. Perez.
So moved.
Okay.
Grady McLeod?
Aye.
Grady McLeod, aye. Wyland? Onestad?
No.
Onestad, no. Calderon?
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett?
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa?
Aye.
Correa, aye. Flores?
Aye.
Flores, aye. Walters? Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye. 6-1, that passes.
6-1, that passes. And that goes to, does it go to Probst?
Goes to appropriations.
Probst, yes. All right, item 4 was on consent. Item 5 is Mr. Swanson's bill, 1822.
Move it. Move it.
Is that due pass as amended?
That's due pass as amended. 2 rules.
Grady McLeod? Wyland? Onestad?
No.
Onestad, no. Calderon?
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett?
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa?
Aye.
Correa, aye. Flores?
Aye.
Flores, aye. Walters? Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye. That passes 5-1.
That passes 5-1. Okay. Item 6 is Mr. Portantino's bill. That's 1889, and that
Vote is 4-0.
and that has 4 zeros. That goes to education. That was already moved. So go ahead and call the vote.
Wyland? Onestad?
No.
Onestad, no. Corbett?
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Walters? Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye.
Okay.
6-1, that passes.
And that goes to Ed. Mr. Berryhill was pulled. Number 7. Number 8 is Solorio, 2077.
Right.
And that was already moved, right?
Right, due pass.
Due pass to appropriations. Call the roll, please.
Wyland? Corbett? This is item number
8.
Aye.
We're going in
Corbett,
order.
Aye. Correa?
Aye.
Correa, aye. Flores?
Aye.
Flores, aye. Walters? 7-0. That's
7-0, that bill passes. Number 9, Mr. Gaines, 2128. And that has already been moved. Call for the roll.
due pass as amended.
Due pass
Wyland?
as amended to the Senate. Okay. Good.
Wyland? Corbett?
No.
Corbett, no. Correa?
Aye.
Correa, aye. Flores? Walters? Yee?
No.
Yee, no. Did Mr. Flores answer? That's 4-2 against.
4-2.
He's still looking.
Obviously.
Flores, aye. That passes 5-2.
Okay, that passes. The next bill, 10, was on consent. The next bill is number 11, Mr. Nava, and that is due pass to approps. And I need a motion for Nava. Okay.
Grady McLeod?
Aye.
Grady McLeod, aye. Wyland? Onestad?
Aye.
Onestad, aye. Calderon?
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett?
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa? Flores?
Aye.
Flores, aye. Walters? Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye.
Correa, no.
Correa, no. 6-1.
6-1, that passes. Number 12 was on consent. Number 13 is Mr. Ruskin, who just presented. That's due pass. And we've already had a motion on that one.
Wyland? Calderon? Corbett.
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa. Walters. That's 5-1. That passes.
5-1. That.
No.
Correa, no.
Okay, that passes.
5-2.
All right. Number 14 is Mr. Amiano, 2393, and that already has had a motion. Call for the roll.
Wyland. Calderon. Corbett.
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa.
Which one is this, I'm sorry?
142393. Amiano.
Calderon, no.
Calderon, no. Correa. Walters.
Correa, aye.
Correa, aye. That passes 5-2.
That passes 5-2. Okay, number 15 is 2437. I need a motion.
So moved.
Bill has been moved. Call for the roll.
Grady McLeod.
Aye.
Grady McLeod, aye. Wyland. Onestad.
No.
Onestad, no. Calderon.
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett.
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa.
Aye.
Correa, aye. Flores. Flores, aye. Walters. Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye.
Aye, aye.
That bill passes.
6-1.
That bill passes to approves. Item 16, 2443, Mr. Perez. I need a motion.
Is that due pass as amended or due?
That is due pass as amended to approves.
Okay. Negrady McLeod.
Aye.
Negrady McLeod, aye. Wyland. Onestad.
No.
Onestad, no. Calderon.
Sorry, which one?
16, 2443.
That's a consent item, I thought.
I'm going to have a girl with a list like this. She's going to walk
All
like
right,
this.
16 is which bill?
Mr. Perez. Mr. Perez.
Aye.
International Relations.
Calderon, aye. Corbett.
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa.
Correa, aye.
Correa, aye. Flores.
Relations,
Flores, aye. Walters. Yee.
I don't know, is this the senior committee or
Yee,
what?
aye. 6-1 passes.
Okay, that passes and it's to appropriation. Mr. Hagman's number 17 was on consent. 18 was pulled. 19 was on consent. 20, Miss Bass. No, yeah. 20 is Miss Bass. That's 2699. And I had a motion, right, on that one? Yes.
You did.
Yes.
Wyland. Corbett. Walters. Passes 5-1.
That passes 5-1. And the vote only now we have, no, I'm not kidding. We have 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 items. We have 21, which is 1996. It's the Mr. Hill's bill.
Do we have to move it?
Yes, we do.
Move the bill.
Okay.
Negrady McLeod.
Aye.
Negrady McLeod, aye. Wyland. Onestad.
No.
Onestad, no. Calderon.
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett.
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa.
No.
Correa, no. Flores.
Aye.
Flores, aye. Walters. Yee. Yee, aye. 5-2.
5-2, that passes to appropriations. Number 22 was on consent. 23 is 2256, Mr. Huffman.
Need a motion.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Negrady McLeod.
Aye.
Negrady McLeod, aye. Wyland. Onestad.
No.
Onestad, no. Calderon.
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett. Correa. Corbett, aye. Correa, no. Flores. Walters. Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye.
Mr. Correa, wasn't it?
Waiting for Flores.
Okay.
Flores,
Flushable.
aye.
That was the flushables.
Passes 5-2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 5-2
Get out.
to EQ committee. 24, Mr. Ng, 2289. This is automotive repair, smog check program. I need a motion.
So moved.
Okay, bill has been moved. Called for the roll.
Negrady McLeod.
Aye.
Negrady McLeod, aye. Wyland. Onestad.
No.
Onestad, no. Calderon.
Aye.
Calderon, aye. Corbett.
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa.
No.
Correa, no. Flores. Flores, aye. Walters. Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. 5-2.
5-2, that passes to trans. The last item is 2332, Mr. Ng, contractors. I need a motion.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Okay. Negrady McLeod.
Aye.
Negrady McLeod, aye. Wyland. Onestad. Onestad, no. Calderon. Calderon, aye. Corbett.
Aye.
Corbett, aye. Correa. Flores. Flores, aye. Walters. Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye.
Correa, no.
Correa, no. 5-2.
5-2, that passes to appropriations. And before we leave, our Senate fellow is leaving us soon. Antoinette, would you stand up? She's been a tremendous help to our committee. Thank you. Thank you all for attending. Yes. And thank you for the sergeants for getting everybody here. Thank you.
You did a great job.
Yes. Okay.